I'm writing a book,
Yeah.
and it's kind of sad because she's the one that her lawyer friend is the one that did my paperwork to get the Obama clemency. That's how I got out of prison.
If Family Feud is one of your favorite game shows, then you would have no problem putting a face to the name Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is married to Marjorie Harvey, and fans know the relationship seems right out of a fairy tale. But sometimes even fairy tales could have a twisted side. And Steve's wife Marjorie seems to have had a very eventful past. A lot has been said about Marjorie, from how she got Steve right where she wanted him to how much she makes Steve work hard to maintain her luxurious lifestyle. But one thing that gets left out of the conversation is how she jumped from one drug kingpin to the next.
What did you just say?
I was just playing.
Apparently, a book is coming out about all the criminal activity she was involved in with her ex-husband, former drug kingpin Jim L. Townsend. To add a bit of background, Marjorie was under investigation in the 1990s while she was married to drug lord Jim L. Townsend, who was indicted for wanting to buy cocaine the weight of a 12-year-old boy.
Cocaine is America's cup of coffee.
He was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment, but only served 26 years after being granted a pardon by then-President Barack Obama. Also at the same time, the FBI wanted Marjorie because they suspected that she played a role in the drug ring, and authorities told Jim that his wife would be arrested as agents believed they had substantial evidence of her illegal activities. Apparently, Jim cut a deal with the authority to leave Marjorie out of it because he was pressured by them. And at the time, Marjorie was 8 months pregnant with their second child, Jason, and he feared their 5-year-old daughter Morgan would be left without a mother. There was Marjorie and my brother Terry, and that was part of the plea bargain. We cut a deal that they wouldn't indict them. Yes, they were involved, but I was the ringleader. But now it seems he is no longer sticking up for her because back in 2019, he said he was writing a tell-it-all book detailing all the criminal activities that took place during his and Marjorie's drug era. I have no allegiance to Marjorie. She showed her hand, I'm going to tell my story. It don't matter if she knows about it. I'm pouring my heart out. No one knows what happened but me and Marjorie. The book is titled Snakes in the Garden, The Untold Story of the Life of Jimmy. It is divided into 3 parts, and the first part comes out in July 2023. The description says, "You'll get a front row seat to see what it's like to face drug dealing, my marriage to Marjorie Harvey, current wife of actor-comedian Steve Harvey, and greed, and how it can impact someone's life." What is in the book is still unknown, but it must contain some pretty juicy secrets because it is in 3 parts, and the first part is selling for $29.99. Shocking, right? The question everyone is asking is if the book will also contain details of Marjorie's marriage to another drug kingpin, Darnell Woods, who is the father of her 3rd child, Lori. There were also rumors that Darnell happened to also be Jim's cousin, and for Marjorie to move from Jim to Darnell, well, that seems a bit shady, don't you think? Another thing people are hoping the book will address is if Marjorie herself was an addict, considering she was so deep in the drug ring, so there is a high chance she used drugs, or maybe still does. But one thing is for sure, the contents of the book are ones to look forward to. Others are also saying that Marjorie being on the news is simply karma for all she and Steve did to his second wife, Mary. For those who do not know, Steve met Mary at a mall in Texas in 1989. And when they met, she was working as a makeup artist. In 1996, Mary and Steve tied the knot and they remained together for nearly a decade. But the marriage was filled with constant flaws, and one of the major problems was Marjorie. Mary actually said that after the divorce, Steve cut her off completely, and the designers who once begged her to wear their designs stopped picking up her calls. And another time she spilled some serious tea was when she released those infamous YouTube videos that exposed Steve and Marjorie. In the videos, she said Steve took everything from her. She got evicted from her home, and he turned her son against her.
He took my Winton. Took my Winton from me. He turned my son against me. had me evicted from our house, thrown out.
In one of the videos, she even talked about his cheating and emails that were sent to him detailing sexual encounters, protection usage, hardcore stuff, and even an aborted pregnancy. The story Mary told about Steve and Marjorie seems entirely different from how Steve and Marjorie say it, so could it be that, out of pain, Mary is telling this version that makes her look more pitiful to the public? Steve and Marjorie first locked eyes during one of his television shows, and it was love at first sight for the Family Feud host, who noticed Marjorie when she showed up late.
When I saw her, I quit breathing.
He stopped the show, actually.
According to Marjorie, the stare was so intense that it made her uneasy. She even thought it was part of the show. And then Steve eventually composed himself and said something.
He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who this is, but I'm gonna marry her."
So when Steve and Marjorie wed in 2007, it created some tricky family dynamics to navigate because Steve already had 4 children from his past relationships, while Marjorie was already a mother of 3. The couple confessed that their union was not immediately accepted by all of their kids. But now it seems like they are mom and dad to everybody. Unfortunately for the couple, their children's displeasure was not the only thing they had to deal with. They also had to deal with Marjorie's ex-husband, Jamel Townsend. Townsend was a major drug dealer, and he said in an interview that Marjorie had a hard time in the marriage. At the time Townsend was in prison, Marjorie had a bar, which the federal authorities shut down because they suspected it had been purchased with his ill-gotten wealth. This must have been hard on her. Now it seems like Townsend is trying too hard when it comes to his book, because every time he is asked something about his and Marjorie's relationship, he gives a little bit of information and then directs people to his book. So now the question is, would the book contain accurate information or just Townsend's version? Sure, Marjorie seems like a Wonder Woman. She is Steve Harvey's wife, and she's also a sweetheart, but people can't help but be worried that the FBI might come after her again. Why, most people might ask? Well, Townsend is being sneaky and seems to be playing a game of catch me if you can. Now people are wondering if he's just using the book as a bargaining chip to get what he wants by holding Steve and Marjorie hostage with the threat of publishing. Another story people are saying is that Steve might have already paid Townsend money not to publish, to save what's left of Marjorie's reputation. If this is true, it seems Townsend does not care because he still boldly came out with his own unique take on Steve and Marjorie's marriage. According to Townsend, Marjorie has changed a lot since he last saw her. Could it be all the bling and money from Steve's bank account that's got into her head? Looks like her marriage to a wealthy and successful man like Steve Harvey has changed her. At least this is what Townsend thinks. Though the tales Marjorie's ex-husband is telling have not been confirmed, it is evident that there is some truth in some of the stories. Because if her husband was buying drugs, she must have obviously been aware of it, because the FBI had to lock up her bar and investigate her. Also, for Townsend to accept a plea deal, there must have been some incriminating things Marjorie had done to make her ex-husband cover up for her. Or what do you think? Well, one thing is certain. Despite all the drama surrounding Steve and Marjorie, fans are rooting for them and want them to live a life full of love with their family. So tell me, what are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments.